We are meant to call from out of the past stories, strange and weird.
Tales of mystery and terror by radio's masters of the macabre.
Stories of the supernatural, the supernormal, dramatizing the fantasy, the mystery, the unknown. We tell you this frankly, so if you wish to avoid the excitement and tension of these imaginary plays, we urge you calmly and sincerely to turn off your radio now.
Welcome back to The Horror. Thanks for joining me this Saturday. We're going to hear from Dark Fantasy this week. Series produced for NBC stations from November of 1941 to June of 1942. Only 31 episodes. Our story today is The Headless Dead. This one first aired January 23rd, 1942.
Dark Fantasy.
I am the master of the Headless Dead.
I say, guard.
Just call me Swiss, sir. Spelled with an E at the end.
Yes, of course. You reminded me before.
What were you about to say, sir?
I was about to observe that this Tower of London is quite a historic place.
That it is, sir. Historic indeed.
And haunted, I have heard tell.
Oh, have you now, sir?
Oh, yes. Don't tell me you haven't heard stories about the Tower's ghost.
Perhaps I have. Perhaps not.
Of course, I don't believe that sort of rubbish, you know.
Rubbish?
Certainly rubbish. Don't tell me, Mr. Swift, with an E, don't tell me you believe in such things as ghosts and haunts.
What I believe, sir, I believe.
Certainly not the legend of the gambling spook of Wycott Hall.
The ghost invariably appears whenever a gambling game is in progress at Wycott Hall here in the tower, and always wins the stakes.
Yes. Don't tell me you believe such a fantastic yarn as that. Or such an unbelievable story as the one about the pig-faced spectre of the rectory.
I imagine Brother Randolph would tell you there's nothing fantastic about the story at all.
Brother Randolph?
Yes, sir. He's the overseer of the rectory. He's seen the spectre many times.
No, he's probably just superstitious.
Brother
too.
Randolph says the thing is always dressed in a long black cloak. Has the body of a human, but the face is that of some grotesque and repulsive animal.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like an old wives' tale.
Oh, mind you, sir, I'm not trying to convince you about such things. That's the entrance to the choir loft, the chapel over there.
Chapel. Didn't know there was one in here.
It's a chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula.
Is it possible for me to go in there?
Begging your pardon, sir, that's what the climb up the stairs was for. We always like to show visitors the choir loft, the chapel.
Well, then, let's have a gander at the place, shall we?
Yes, indeed, sir. Yeah, the key. We always keep this locked. More habit than anything else. Nobody ever climbs those steps unless they're showing them through the tower. Here we are, sir.
Yeah, I say. It's dark in there. How about a light, my man?
Oh, no, blimey. I completely forgot to turn the lights on the fuse box down below. If you don't mind waiting, sir.
Oh, no. Wait. I wouldn't ask anyone to climb those steps again. There's enough light coming through the stained glass panes. I say, will you lead the way?
Yes, of course. Watch your step, sir. Step up here. There you are, sir. You can observe the chapel below, sir.
Yes. Deserted looking, isn't it?
It isn't as deserted as you might think, sir.
What was that?
You see only as far as you permit yourself to see, sir.
I don't believe I understand.
If you look for emptiness, sir, you see emptiness.
But it is empty down there.
Is it, sir?
I suppose you're trying to tell me this chapel is haunted, too.
Hasn't it a right to be, sir?
Right.
Yes, indeed. You see, sir, it's the burial place of the Headless Dead.
It's another of those idiotic legends.
Hardly a legend. You see those flagstones down there in front of the altar?
Faintly, yes.
Those stones form more than just the sanctuary floor, sir. They are also tombstones.
Why do you tell me such a thing as that, Mr. Swift?
Because it's truth.
You mean people are buried beneath those flagstones?
Including, I might add, 2 of England's queens.
Not actually.
Oh, yes, actually.
I've never heard that before.
Few people have, sir.
Then that's why you say the place down there isn't deserted.
In a manner of speaking, that's what I mean. Yes. Have you observed the huge pipe organ here in the loft, sir?
Oh, yes. I noticed when we came in. But getting back to what you were talking...
It's quite a famous instrument, I might say. Been played by dozens of famous people.
Oh, it has? Could I play it?
Well, it's against regulations, sir, but, well, if you play softly, sir.
Why, now, I say that's mighty good of you. I do have somewhat of a reputation for playing the organ.
You play well, sir. Quite well.
Thank you. A rather old instrument, isn't it? Beautiful tone, though. Beautiful.
Et verbum erat in principio.
What's that?
Hac erat in principio apud verbum.
Keep playing, sir. Keep playing.
What?
Quickly, sir, before it's too late. Play.
Hic finis in testimonium.
That voice. What is it?
No one knows. He always speaks like that in Latin whenever a stranger plays his organ for the first time.
Et testimonium peribere delumine.
Can you see who it is?
No one has ever seen who it is.
Ire laxera acque.
Is he gone?
Yes. You'll hear no more of him today.
But what's the explanation? Who is it? Why does he do that?
There is no explanation. I must admit, sir, I've often heard of the ghost of St. Peter's Chapel, but this is the first time I've actually heard him.
He always does that?
Whenever a stranger plays his organ for the first time.
Will he return if I play again?
No. He always speaks just once. Then he's never heard again until another organist plays for the first time.
Amazing. Absolutely incredible.
I say, sir, it's about closing time. Do you mind if I leave you now?
Why, no, of course not.
You recall your way out of the tower, I trust. Look around a while longer if you wish. I'll return later to lock this car loft.
But I don't know whether I want to remain here.
Oh, don't worry, sir. You're quite all right. Besides, you don't believe in such rubbish as ghosts.
Yes, but
I'm happy to show you around, sir. By the way, what did you say your name is?
Holman. Frederick J. Holman.
Well, then I'm very happy to have known you, Mr. Holman. Who knows? Perhaps your visit here will make you a changed man.
Now, whatever did he mean by that? I say, what's come over me? I feel so sleepy. Yes, sleepy. best sit here in this pew. Strange. Never felt like this before. I'll sleep here a while, then go home. Huh? What's that? Went to sleep. Oh, I remember now. I slept here in this chapel pew. I say, the door's closed now. Mr. Swift evidently returned, locked me in. That's strange. Why didn't he awaken me? What's that? No. No. It can't be. Those stones at the foot of the altar. They're being pushed up by someone underneath. Hands. And arms. Long, bony arms. Pushing up the flagstones. And over to the right. Two ghostly figures. Rising out of the tombs in the floor. No. No, it's not possible. It can't be. Figures. Dozens of them now. Leaving their tombs. Forming a procession down the middle aisle of the chapel. And each of them is headless. And carrying his head before him in his hands. Look at them. Marching. In a slow procession down the center aisle. Marching. 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 On soundless feet. That man in front. The one in ancient armor. He seems to be the leader of those fantastic creatures. Oh, is this a dream? Is this a nightmare?
No. It is not a dream.
How did you get up here? Just a moment ago, you were down below, leading the procession.
It is not our custom to hold our rights while an intruder is present.
But I was locked in here. I didn't intend to be here.
Now that you are here, you must make the most of it.
What do you mean?
You're now as one of us.
It was you who prayed when I played the organ earlier today.
Yes. I always pray when a stranger sits at the console. You see, it was I who first played this organ when it was installed. Don't you think I play well?
But why do you return when others play it?
Because no one could ever play it as well as I. Therefore, I pray for them.
You're dead. And yet, you're playing the instrument now.
Yes. I always provide the music for our nightly meetings.
I don't understand all this. Those others down there, they're ghastly creatures. Headless.
Yes. They were less fortunate than I. You see, I managed to keep my head.
They were executed?
How else would they have come to be headless? You see, we will become quite uncomfortable lying in our graves beneath the flagstone floor if we didn't arise occasionally and stretch ourselves.
Good heavens.
Look, you, down below there. Will it amaze you for me to tell you that in that procession are some of history's most famous people?
Surely this isn't happening.
Indeed. Believe me, you're quite mistaken. Didn't you know that here in the chapel of St. Peter ad Ventula are buried such famous people as Sir Thomas More, Henry VIII's queens, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard?
Do remember that, but
As well as Lady Jane Grey and Dudley, her husband, and Sir Walter Raleigh, and the Duke of Monmouth.
But they have all been dead for hundreds of years.
How true. How very true. Rick Holman, you will join us.
What?
I said, you will join in the procession with us.
No, not I.
It must be so. No one can look upon the procession of the headless dead unless he joined them to save himself.
Save myself? What do you mean?
You will discover what I mean if you refuse to take part in the ceremony.
But not now. Not tonight. Perhaps later. Yes, some other time.
It will be more satisfactory for you to join us tonight.
I can't tonight. Can't we make it some other night? Honestly, I fell asleep here. It's later than I thought.
It's exactly midnight.
I must return home. My family will be frantic. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll return to join you.
Tomorrow at midnight.
What?
Tomorrow at midnight. You will return to join in the procession.
Yes. Yes, that's fine. You can count on it.
Raise your right hand.
My right hand?
Yes, raise it. Now, repeat after me. I solemnly swear.
I solemnly swear.
By the souls of the sacred dead.
By the souls of the sacred dead.
To return to this chapel tomorrow at midnight.
To return to this chapel tomorrow at midnight.
So help me, heaven.
So help me, heaven.
Now, you may go.
Yes, but the door to the choir loft is locked.
It is locked, but you will have no trouble going out through it. And remember, Frederick Holman, tomorrow night at midnight.
Frederick, dear, you're worried about something. I know you are. It was 1 o'clock when you came home last night. You've never done that before.
No, I know, Laura, my dear, I know.
You acted so strangely when you did get home. What's more, you didn't sleep. You tossed all night long.
Laura, I must tell you something.
Well, I certainly think I have some explanation coming.
Yes. Yes, you have. I don't know how you're going to accept this, but... Well, here goes. I went to visit the Tower of London yesterday. I saw the prison cells and the execution and torture chambers. Finally, the guard took me to the little chapel of St. Peter ad Ventula. So I promised to return to the chapel tonight at midnight. And they permitted me to leave the chapel.
Frederick, surely you were dreaming.
No, I'm sure it was no dream. It was all too realistic. I saw those people and heard them.
Oh, but things like that don't happen.
I'm very positive this happened, Laura.
Oh, nonsense. You were just affected by those ghost stories that guide told you about the tower.
No, dear, you're wrong. I've never believed in such things before. Now? Well,
But surely you don't intend to go back there tonight. Do you?
I don't know, Laura. I don't know. Hello. Hello, Laura. I say, Laura, are you there? Laura. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. I thought for a moment we'd been disconnected. Yes, I can hear you now. What I called for, dear, was to say I'm dining at the club tonight. Yes, old Simon Joster is off to the Orient. We're having a dinner for him. Yes, I'll be home early. Huh? What's that? No, Laura. I've decided not to go to the tower tonight. I think you're probably right. It all must have been a dream.
Good evening, Mr. Holman. Your car, sir.
Oh, thank you, Henry.
Shall I drive you to the tower, sir?
Tower? What? Of course not, Henry. Drive me straight home. Whatever made you think I'd want to go to the tower at this time of night?
I don't rightly know, sir. Begging your pardon, Mr. Holman, I don't know what made me ask you that. Really, I don't.
Don't drive me home, Henry.
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, what time do you have, Henry?
It's just a minute or two before midnight, sir.
Oh, very well. Take me home at once.
Did you say something, sir?
Did you hear something, Henry?
Hear something, sir?
Yes, that voice.
Voice, Mr. Holman.
Don't you hear that voice?
No, sir. I don't hear nothing, sir.
Listen. It's him. Listen to him.
You must be tired, sir. There's nobody.
That voice.
Really, sir.
Don't tell me you haven't heard of the gambling spook of Wyckothor.
In principio est verbum.
No. No, it can't be.
Or Brother Randolph's pig-faced spectre of the rectory.
No one could ever play the organ as well as I.
That's what he said. The man in armor.
You see, only as far as you permit yourself to see, sir.
You see, I managed to keep my head.
If you look for emptiness, sir, you see emptiness.
Then it wasn't a dream.
The flagstones of the sanctuary floor are also tombstones.
It's true. It wasn't a dream.
You must join our procession.
Henry.
The headless dead.
Join our procession.
The headless dead.
Join our procession.
The headless dead.
Henry. In the name of heaven, man, look where you're driving.
I can't stop, sir.
Look out, you're going to hit that rock. Mr. Holmes! Henry, look out!
Mr. Holman. Mr. Holman, are you all right, sir? We hit that truck and... Mr. Holman, we hit that truck broadside and... Mr. Holman, look at him.
Greetings, Frederick Holman, and welcome. I am pleased that you have kept your appointment with us.
you have heard The Headless Dead, tonight's original tale of dark fantasy by Scott Bishop. Ben Morris played Frederick Holman. Eleanor Naylor Corrin was Mrs. Holman. Fred Wayne was Swift. Garland Moss was the leader of the Headless Dead. And Murillo Schofield was heard as the chauffeur. Next Friday night at this same time, we'll bring you a strange and weird tale of the unusual. Death is a savage deity, based upon Scott Bishop's novel of the same name. Listen for this breathtaking tale of witchcraft and black magic. Dark Fantasy originates each Friday night in the studios of WKY, Oklahoma City. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
That's the horror for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back next Saturday with a story from Suspense. Between now and then, visit relicradio.com if you want to hear more from Dark Fantasy, past episodes of the horror, find all the other podcasts, our Shoutcast stream, and if you'd like to donate, you can do that on the website as well, or visit donate.relicradio.com. That'll take you to a page with more information. Your support keeps it all coming every week. Thanks, as always, to those who have helped out. Thanks for joining me today. I'll talk to you again next Saturday with another episode of The Horror.
Strange Tales.
RelicRadio.com presents tales of the strange and bizarre, the weird and the wicked. Stories not necessarily of the supernatural, but of the unnatural. Join us now for Strange Tales, featuring radio drama at its most mysterious and unusual. Welcome back to Strange Tales. Thanks for joining me this Sunday. We're going to hear from Murder at Midnight this week, a series of 52 episodes that aired at one time or another over ABC Mutual and NBC stations. The first airing of the series ran from September of 1946 to September of 1947. Our story this week is The Line is Dead. This one first aired September 20th, 1946.
Too sure about that, Wentworth.
What do you mean?
Don't forget that skeleton there. He was once a man, too. Until he was trapped in here. Or murdered.
What of it?
Oh, nothing. Nothing except this.
Midnight. The witching hour when the night is darkest. Our fears the strongest. Our strength at its lowest ebb. Midnight, when the graves gape open and death strikes. How? You'll learn the answer in just a minute in The Line is Dead.
And now, Murder at Midnight. Tales of mystery and terror by radio's masters of the macabre. Our story by Faith Blau is The Line is Dead.
gash in the green lawn of Brookside Memorial Park awaits the body of Albert Lockridge, scientist and explorer. There are few who have followed him to his last resting place, for Albert Lockridge was not one who was prodigal with his affection. So beside the yawning grave stands his wife, Lenore.
Albert.
Finishing the short service, the minister says,
"And so, unto dust, you are now committed." You may lower the casket.
Strong hands grasp the straps attached to the coffin. The pulleys sing their discordant dirge, a strange melody heard over the soft weeping of Lenore Lockridge. Suddenly...
Listen, knocking in the coffin. Albert, we hear you. We know you're alive.
Raise the casket. Raise the casket. Yes, sir.
He is all right, isn't he, Dr. George?
He seems to be, but...
But what?
Well, you can't blame me if I'm a little hesitant in giving my opinion.
You mean you're not sure that he will?
Yes.
Oh.
After all, Mrs. Lockridge, my position is a little awkward. I signed the death certificate feeling certain that your husband was dead. And now I'm naturally reluctant to predict just what course his convalescence will take.
I think I understand. The only thing that really matters is that my husband's lying in his bed at home and not in the cold, black earth of Brookside. Isn't that true?
Well, you're a very sensible woman.
Albert will get better.
Probably. But we'll have to watch his heart.
His heart?
These strange spells when his heart seems to stop, when I thought it had stopped. Each attack is an added strain.
But the strain of regaining consciousness in the coffin, he withstood that when even a healthy person might not have.
Oh, he's a hard person to kill.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Well, this time it was a pretty close call. If he'd come to even 10 minutes later, Mrs. Lockridge, no one would have ever known.
Albert.
Lenore? Is that you?
Albert, the doctor says you'll be fine if you'll only rest.
I can't rest. I've got to ask you a question.
Dear, you've been through so much, too much for any one person, so save any questions you may.
No, this question can't wait. That sealed envelope, Lenore. The one on my desk.
The one I'm supposed to read after you're...
Yes, after I'm dead. Lenore, you haven't read it, have you?
No, Albert. I plan to read it after the funeral, just as you told me to.
Sure? You haven't read it?
Of course.
Get it for me. I want to see for myself.
Albert, no, you've so little strength.
But I must know.
You will.
I must know now. Because if you read it, I'd want to live.
Albert, I swear I haven't. Please believe me.
You saw it?
No. Look at me. You can see I'm telling the truth. Look at me.
Yes, I think you are telling the truth. Well, Mr. Lockridge, another few days, and we'll have you out of that wheelchair.
Sometimes I wonder why you go to all this trouble with me, Doctor.
It's my job.
Yes, but there's so many people who really enjoy life and yet die. Twice now I've been pronounced dead, only to return to life, almost reluctantly.
Reluctantly?
Yes.
You tried awfully hard to get out of the coffin.
The sheer horror of being buried alive. I've always been terrified of it.
Since childhood?
Yes. My nurse locked me in a closet whenever I misbehaved. I always thought I'd be left to die there.
Oh, it's not the fact of being dead that bothers me. It's
the fear of being buried alive.
It's the choking. The futility of crying out. Yes, it would be a horrible way to die, but...
Excuse me, Doctor. There's a Mr. Burton here to see you, Mr. Lockridge.
Good. Show him in, nurse.
Nurse, take our patient out on the sun porch. I'll send his visitor there.
Mr. Lockridge?
Sit down, Mr. Burton.
Thank you.
Nurse, if you don't mind.
Not at all. If you need me, just call.
Now, Mr. Burton, as I understand your business...
I'm a telephone engineer, specializing in special types of telephone systems.
Yes. But perhaps you read about me in the paper.
Yeah, sure I have. You're the guy who came back from the grave.
Yes, I'm the guy who came back from the grave. And it strikes me, Mr. Burton, that an occasion might again arise when I might want to do the same thing. That's why I called you.
Come again?
Sometime a doctor again may pronounce me dead. Perhaps I will be, perhaps I won't. And if I'm not, I'd like to feel that I could call for help.
I don't get it.
Mr. Burton, in case it should happen again, I'd like you to install a private telephone from this house to my grave. You must promise to keep the phone installed and in working condition for a year after I'm buried.
A year? Darling, that doesn't make any sense.
With a stop-and-go heart of mine doesn't make any sense either.
But, Albert, a year?
The first time my heart stopped for 6 hours. The next time, nearly 2 days. Who can tell?
Well, a week, a month, perhaps.
I think I'm asking very little.
Well, then think of me, darling. Think of waiting day in and day out for the ring of that telephone. Think of the jumping at every stray bell, at every noise. Darling, you're condemning me to a slow death, like being in a grave above ground.
I still think my request is a modest one, and the least that a wife who loved her husband would do for him.
Albert, don't start that again.
After all, I shall be in my grave. Perhaps I shall be waiting too, waiting for help that will never come.
Will you please stop this morbid talk? Nothing else seems to be on your mind lately. Besides, it's terribly late, almost midnight.
When death comes to a man slowly, he gets time to think about it. Too much time.
Stop it, please.
It seems to me that you are only too anxious to get rid of me.
Albert, how can you even think such a thing after... I've been a good wife, haven't I?
Yes, but you might have made Oliver Wentworth an even better one.
Albert, please don't bring that up again.
What would have happened if Oliver had come back from that expedition with me?
I don't know.
You would have married him, wouldn't you?
Perhaps, I don't know. No.
How can you say that? You were engaged to him, weren't you?
An engagement doesn't always mean marriage.
You did intend to marry him, didn't you?
Of course I did. What of it? You know I intended to.
And you only changed your mind because he was killed. That's why you turned towards me.
Well...
I was nothing in your life.
You were very sweet to me, Albert, then. I could see that you loved me in your peculiar way. I appreciated everything you did for me.
Appreciate?
Oh, Albert, why dig looking for a sore spot? It's not fair to me or to you.
I was nothing in your life, was I? As long as Oliver was alive.
What are you trying to prove?
All the time we've spent together, I've played second fiddle to Oliver Wentworth.
Look, Albert Lockridge, when we married, I said I'd put all thoughts of Oliver out of my mind. Well, I've done it. At least?
At least what? You mean you've tried, but you couldn't.
Oh.
I knew it. You've never loved me. He's always been in your heart.
What are you talking about?
You just said it. If I had died, you would never have given me another thought. But all the time, here, in my own house, he's been living his own memory, haunting you, haunting us. I can't go on like this. It just can't go on. I've struggled with him long enough. He's got to go. No matter what I have to do to crush his memory, I've got to kill it.
Albert.
Lenore?
What is it?
Lenore, help me. There's a chair in my heart.
I've got you. Now, slowly. Slowly?
I don't think I can make it.
Of course you can. Of course you can. You've got to. Doctor, are you sure?
Absolutely, Mrs. Lockridge. And this time the two heart specialists agree with me.
But, Doctor, in view of what happened before...
We've tried to take that into consideration. But even so...
Well, can't you postpone signing the certificate?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Lockridge. My colleagues and I all agree that your husband is dead. There can be no delay.
Very well, Doctor. Thank you for everything.
Goodbye, Mrs. Lockridge.
Goodbye, Doctor. Hello? Mr. Burton? This is Mrs. Lockridge speaking. My husband died yesterday. He's to be buried tomorrow at Brookside. Will you please be there as he desired to install a telephone in his grave?
A man who was afraid, not of death, but of being buried alive. A telephone to a sealed grave, and the great beyond. Will we hear from Albert Lockridge again before the clock strikes 12 for
Murder at Midnight? And now, back to Murder at Midnight and The Line is Dead.
One minute. Oh, Dr. George.
Good evening, Mrs. Lockridge.
Awfully nice of you to call.
I was worried about you.
I'm all right. I'm fine.
I couldn't come to the funeral. I tried to phone you, but...
The phone's disconnected.
So they said. And so I came over. I rang the bell several times. No answer either. Finally, I knocked.
I've had the doorbell disconnected, too.
You mustn't cut yourself off from the world like this, Mrs. Lockridge.
Believe me, Doctor, that's not my intention. As long as I stand guard at this telephone, I want to be sure that the only bell that ever rings in this house is the one that tells me that Albert's not dead, that he's still alive there in his coffin, that he needs help.
You're really going through with this?
He asked me to. It doesn't seem too much.
Oh, you're only deluding yourself, Mrs. Lockridge, believe me. Waiting this way is only a perverse and completely futile sort of mourning.
I know you can't understand.
I can't. But I do know that this morbid watch will only deepen your grief, prevent you from making any kind of adjustment to his death.
What difference does it
Now,
make?
you're a young woman, Mrs. Lockridge. You have a whole life ahead of you.
All the more reason for spending some of it as he wanted me to. Doctor, my husband was not the sort of person who inspired affection.
I know.
But in his odd, sometimes unaccountable way, he did love me. Now that he's gone, no one on earth holds any fond memories of him but me.
A heavy responsibility, Mrs. Lockridge. Still, you must take care of yourself.
I will, Doctor.
Assume that he is dead. Mourn him as you will, but don't live in a state of suspended animation. For instance, if he's left a will, don't put off reading it.
There are some papers which I was supposed to read after his death. They're in a sealed envelope in his desk.
Read them. Read them immediately.
No, not yet.
You should. Perhaps they'll contain some message of comfort. Get the envelope now.
Not now, Dr. George, but very soon. Just a moment. Yes? Oh.
Lenore,
Oh, no. No, it can't.
it is. I know I shouldn't have come just like this without warning.
But I've always thought
That I was dead. Yes, I know.
that's what Albert told me, and you never came back.
No.
Why?
It's a long story, Lenore. A story you ought to hear.
You know that Albert died yesterday?
I know. That's why I came.
Why didn't you come sooner when he was alive? Were you afraid to meet him?
I was afraid to meet you.
Me? Why, Albert?
By the time I returned, you and Albert were already married.
But even so, we both would have
I
welcomed.
wonder. You see, I knew you thought I was dead. No good would have come of such a meeting. But now everything is different.
Different?
Yes, of course. I loved you then. I love you now.
Oliver,
I've come back for you.
Oliver, you don't understand. How can I even think of such things today.
Lenore, I had to come. I've waited so long. I couldn't wait a day longer.
Can't you see? It's useless even to think about that now. He may still be alive.
I know.
No, it's not right to speak as you do, not today.
I was afraid you'd think so. Lenore, I wanted to avoid this, but now I see I must tell you. Lenore, neither of us knew Albert Lockridge.
After all, Oliver, I've lived with
I
him.
still don't think you ever really knew him. I never did, even though I worked with him for many years. That is, until the day we stood in the great hall of the old Aztec temple. The temple we found on that last expedition. The one from which I was not supposed to come back from. We were trying to find a door to an inner chamber.
There must be an opening here somewhere, Wentworth. In every Aztec temple ever found, there was always a room near the altar used to keep ceremonial objects.
I know. Wait a minute. Sounds like a little hollow here. What about that slab on the floor?
What about it?
I think that it might... Certainly sounds different. If I were an Aztec priest, and I stepped on it like this...
Wentworth, the door! We found the door!
Solid stone. And still working after all these centuries. Let's take a look inside.
You got the flashlight?
Yes, take the hammer.
Right.
Uh-oh. It's not very pretty. It is a human skeleton, isn't it?
Yeah.
Probably trapped in here and left to die.
Ugly death.
Look, Lockridge. Those dishes.
Swing the flashlight over. Gold. Solid gold.
There are more over here. Look, stacks of them.
That's them. We found the treasure.
Now, wait a minute, Lockridge. Let's get this straight. In the first place, I don't think we'd be let out of the country with these gold plates.
Oh, but we can melt them down and smuggle them out.
Melt them down? Now, these things are priceless. Besides, the university sent us here. If the gold belongs to anyone, it's theirs.
No one ever has to know.
Oh, yes, they do, because I'll tell them.
Huh? It's all very well for you to play the heroic fool. You've everything you want.
What the devil do you mean?
You know perfectly well. You got all the money you need. Besides, you have Lenore.
What's she got to do with it?
You do have Lenore, haven't you?
You act as if I took her from you.
You were afraid of me.
Oh, Lockridge, don't be an idiot. Lenore would no more look at you than...
Oh, wouldn't she? She'd marry me if you went in the way. I know it.
Are you fool? She's just being friendly to you because I asked her.
We'll see. If you weren't around.
But I am around. As far as the gold plates are concerned...
I said we'll see. After all, that skeleton there, he was once a man, too. Until he was trapped in here.
What of it?
Oh, nothing. Nothing. Nothing except...
I was there in the dark. Flashlight, the gold plate's gone. Left there to die. Trapped behind a stone door.
Oh, no. No.
When Albert Lockridge closed that door, in his heart, in his twisted brain, there was only one intention. Murder.
How did you get out?
By luck more than anything else. I had the hammer and I knew where the stone latch was. I started chipping away at it. This day, I don't know how long it took me, but when I finally got out, I was a sick man. Exhausted. And by the time I was well enough to travel, come home here, you were already married.
And he told me that you'd been killed by natives. Of course, that was a lie, but... Oliver, I still can't believe that your story's completely true either.
But why?
A man who's been the victim of an attempted murder would see that the murderer was punished. You didn't even try to.
Lenore, how could I? He was your husband.
Well, why should that?
Could I brand you as the wife of a murderer? Loving you as I did, as I do? I had to wait. But now let's forget this horrible past.
I can't, no matter how I feel I can't. After all, there's no proof.
Lenore, don't you believe
It's not
me?
just that, don't you see? At any moment, the telephone may ring, telling me that he's alive. If I knew your story were true, perhaps I'd feel differently, but... Now, my place is here. I must stay here.
Lenore, please. If you feel any love for me at all.
Will you go, Oliver? Please.
If that's what you wish. Yes, Lenore. I'll go. But remember, I love you.
I don't know why it should matter now, but I still hope you told the truth, Oliver, for then. The papers in the sealed envelope. I promised Dr. George I'd read them. Lenore, there are many things on my mind as I sit writing this last word to you. Many things which no human mind should have to bear without telling another. As I look over my life, I know now it has been an empty mind.
I've never had a straightforward human emotion and acted on it. My work has been a sort of shadow play which gave my hollow existence an outward tinge of reality. No friend has really touched me, for I cannot be reached. I married you more out of perverse vanity than love. And yet, perhaps because of your loyalty, some spark of love has been kindled in me. Bear this in mind when you go out to the garden. For there, underneath the sundial, you will find a treasure of gold, which should take care of you when I cannot. I had intended to use this gold myself, but I could not because it might incriminate me in the murder of Oliver Wentworth.
People might ask questions, but you... The murder of Oliver Wentworth. Then his story was true. Oliver! Oh, Oliver! Oliver! Gone. Well, he can't have gone far, and if I hurry... Oliver! Oliver! Oliver, I'm coming! I'm coming! Oliver!
Telephone ringing in an empty house. A man who is not dead, lying in his coffin, fighting for breath and waiting for an answer that will not come. A fitting payment for
murder at midnight.
Remember to be with us again when death stands waiting at a newly dug grave, when the clocks strike 12 for
murder at midnight. The parts of Mr. and Mrs. Albert Lockridge were played by Mr. and Mrs. Raymond Edward Johnson, with music by Charles Paul. Murder at Midnight was directed by Anton M. Leader.
That's our Strange Tale for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. You can find more from Murder at Midnight Strange Tales and everything Relic Radio at the website relicradio.com. You can also find our Shoutcast stream there and donate. If you'd like to help support this and all of the shows. Your support is the only way it keeps coming to you every week. Thank you, as always, to those who have helped out. Thanks for joining me today. I'll be back next Sunday with a story from the CBS Radio Mystery Theater and another episode of Relic Radio's Strange Tales.